I have a question here, and I'm sure this is going to get some flack by libertarians and whatnot, and people are going to call me, anti-rich. But should there really be rich people in the United States at a time when 50% of Americans are poor and don't even actually have to pay taxes? Yes, I get the point that some jobs are, you know, they're not, the people that are doing these jobs aren't rich and they can't really afford it. But if you're working for a major company that has had major record profits, does it make any sense that their employees are barely getting enough money to get by? I mean, it seems to me this whole idea that, because people are successful, they should get to keep their money. But it doesn't trickle down. They're not paying the employees. You know, unless you're working in the stock market or whatnot, a lot of people that get rich from their businesses don't get rich by themselves. They didn't have employees. They didn't have the people working under them. They wouldn't be rich. They wouldn't have any money. So where's this idea that, you know, they got rich by themselves? Doesn't mean necessarily owe their employees anything. But I find it ridiculous that so many companies are making record profits. At the same time, so many Americans can't even barely feed themselves or afford a home. Where's this logic in this? And people want to get another job. Really? Where are people going to get these jobs? Where are these jobs for people to get? Because they're in a lot of places. There's a lot more people looking for the jobs than there are jobs. And other people like to say, well, if employees just is abusing you or if he's not giving you the right amount of money, go ahead and get another job. What other job? Again, are people going to quit this low-paying job for what? To be on welfare? To not get a job? I mean, seriously, the issue is there's a lot of lack of jobs. And yes, some states might have more jobs, but the other comes into if somebody doesn't have a job, the money for a job in one state because he can't afford get a job or not getting enough money, how are they going to move to another state? Where's that money going to come from? Money doesn't grow on trees. People just don't suddenly have the money to go up and move to another place. My sister's husband works for Safeway. He's a manager, and it's a 3-month process for him to move. You know what happens? They tell him you're moving to another city. What does he do? He has to he's working his job while he's living in a hotel until he can find a place. If somebody doesn't have doesn't have a job, how can they afford to move to another place to find a house while looking for work? And if there's no jobs there, then they're worse off than before because they don't even have a home. They're staying in a hotel or someplace. This whole idea of move to where there's jobs doesn't really work. This whole idea of quit the job and get another job doesn't work if there is no jobs. I'm all for people getting rich. I'm all for people getting successful. I have issues with many of these companies that are successful and doing rich, barely feeding their employees chicken scratch. When there's so many places and so many people are poor, you have these people that are massively rich and getting massive records, profits. They can pay their employees a margin more than money and barely lose anything in their bottom dollar. People are making millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year off of these businesses, when their employees are barely getting minimum wage. And people want to say get rid of minimum wage. Yeah, that's a great idea. These companies fight tooth and nail just to pay minimum wage, yet we're supposed to expect them to pay out of the goodness of their heart. People, they will pay people as little as they can to make as much profit as they can. And yes, that makes sense. That's how business works. But that's where the government's supposed to come in hand. Minimum wage and other things are the way to ensure that people are getting the amount of money they should be getting. And yes, I know it's not every company is bad about this. I just find it really disgusting with how many rich people there are in the United States when their employees can't afford stuff. Seriously. Is there any excuse for why employers pay their employers pay their employees so little when their employees are having so much problems with paying for bills and whatnot? You know, everybody in the United States should have the ability to live comfortably. Nobody should be under the poverty line. Nobody should be so poor they can't pay taxes. You know, and I love it how people say, 50% of Americans don't pay taxes, while complaining that the rich pay too many taxes. We should be helping one another. The planet should be working to grow and make this a better place. All I see is the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, and the level of comfort of living dropping a lot. This world is falling into a dark place because it seems nobody cares about anything beyond their bottom line. And that is not going to make a good place for our children or for ourselves. If you really care so little about yourself and your children that you don't mind your children working for almost nothing because you think the rich should be successful and keep all that money, fine. That's your children. I care more about everyone else on this planet. I don't think the rich should get rich on the backs of everyone else. If they get rich, well, everybody else is getting a chance to be successful and getting money is happy. Fine. Like I said, I'm nothing against rich. I'm against the rich doing it in the backs of everyone else. Comment below if you agree or disagree. Let me know your thoughts on this.